We are back, and again, maybe for the third time, because we had also a little mini episode
Yeah,
before.
that's true.
The great Szymon Jakubowski, the Polish master, he's back. He's a pianist, organist, great improviser, and yeah, he's just a great content creator. His YouTube channel is absolutely fantastic. If you're interested in classical improvisation, I really would highly recommend subscribing to his channel. Szymon, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Nikhil. Welcome back.
Now, first of all, you got to show your setup. Can you just quickly go to your screen? You can do some really cool things.
You mean this one?
Look at that. And you can even put music too. That's your side. That's really cool.
Yeah. So this is possible. We have to play something else.
That's really awesome. Okay. All right. So one thing that's great about a second interview is that, the first interview when I meet someone, it's getting to know the person, a bit of your history, and we talk very broadly, right? We talk very in general, like, oh, what's this in general? And we never really get a chance to go in depth. So I think that you and I, we chatted a little bit, and we were thinking to ourselves, what would we talk about a little bit more in depth?
Mhm.
And we actually came up with some really interesting things, and dealing a lot with the 19th century, dealing with pianistic things and harmony. So I think we have a really good show lined up today.
Yeah, me too.
Did you wanna just introduce maybe like how the first thing we would talk about? We have a few things, but maybe why don't you take it away on what you want to talk about first?
Yeah, so as you said already, my focus in my teaching, but also in my artistic way, is improvisation. So I will focus on maybe how to find right approach to improvisation. There are many ways. There are a lot of, since I would say 15 years, it happens a lot in this area, especially historic improvisation. So we can maybe talk a little bit about this starting, because I'm teaching students and also, private but also at the university. And very often happens the same. They are asking me the same thing. Szymon, how can I start? And Szymon, how can I practice?
Yeah.
Because after starting, there's the second question: how can I practice it? Because it's a difficult thing. Yeah.
What could you give an idea of the kind of students you get? Are they pretty advanced?
Both. So there are some advanced students. What mean advanced? In the improvisation, mostly everyone is the beginner.
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least quite good at the piano. Like have been playing for many years or several years, and they're not beginners, not even intermediate. They can play some pretty decent repertoire, and
Yeah.
now they're trying to explore more theory and improvisation.
Yeah. So the first group, I would say, really like beginners in piano, or not beginners in the piano, but or organ, because I'm teaching also organ improvisation. But they are really not maybe some 2-3 years playing organ or piano, and I want to start parallel improvisation to it. And another group is like they are very advanced in playing piano, like professional piano players or pianists, and they want also to start with improvisation. And these are two different approaches, because for the second group, I think this is very often the case, that there are huge problems, a huge gap between what they already do with the repertoire. They're playing like virtuoso pieces, and to get really to the beginning and start really from scratch with improvisation. This is very, very difficult thing for them. Yeah.
Can I just ask, do you need to be good at like when someone is good at repertoire? Sometimes they might be good at memorizing, and memorizing is important for improvisation. You need to memorize a lot of little things and a lot of things actually. But do you also need like things like reading, and is that important as well? Does that help you in improvisation? I mean, these are very silly questions, but but maybe sometimes you don't find, especially people who memorize a lot, they're not necessarily good readers as well.
Since 2 years, I have for me it's nice comparison to learning foreign language. So if someone asks about improvisation, I try to compare it to learning foreign language. And if you ask, do you need this reading and so on, I said, do you need it for learning a foreign language? Yes, of course. So if you open a book where you start, for example, I want to learn Spanish, I bought a book, and there is writing listening, reading, and speaking. So these 4 kinds of being involved with the language. And I think the 4 parameters are the same, very important in the music. And mostly what we do in our lessons, also as a child, we are only reading. So we are reading pieces and so on. And we are not writing much and not, hearing maybe yes, but there is some problems, the disproportion between these elements. And of course, if someone played a huge amount of repertoire and already have it in the head, so can it play by heart a lot of examples, a lot of pieces, or maybe much better if someone have the feeling of the style. For example, someone played Baroque music, a lot of Baroque music. So there will be bigger chance that he or she could, I would say, start faster with this improvisation, because already there is a lot of vocabulary in the ear. So this is about hearing some vocabulary and this is cadence, this is sequence. Okay, I can do this and this. So I think this is a faster and easier way. But the problem is, in this case, that they want to do everything at once. Yeah. So there is no flow, and this is the main problem. So I know a lot of things. I have a huge knowledge about music. Music theory is no problem for me. But how use this flow, and the flow, learning of the flow is something different. It's like learning of speaking. The first I need to open my mouth. I compare it also to language. In the classroom, speaking is difficult. But for example, if I go to Spain and I start to speak Spanish on the street, or I go to coffee and start to, first sentence, I want to order a coffee, or I want to pay a bill. This is this way, but very slowly way. So one sentence after another, and so on.
Yeah.
And it's also
No
in the
shortcut.
musical. Yeah, and in the music, this is the same way. Just start first with some playing variations about Passacaglia or Chacona and so on, and then put next model to it, and create a huge, bigger version of it, or like form. So this is the main point.
That's very good. So why don't we just dive in, I think, to a little bit of examples and talking about things. And where should we start with the 19th century, and in terms of certain pianistic things in improvisation? We're stepping away from the classical style,
Yeah.
Maybe we're stepping into Chopin, Schubert later.
It's a good idea, but I would, because if we want to talk about this generally said romantic period, we need to say that beginning of the 19th century, you have very big influence already of this classical music and the whole 19th century, 18th century. And so figured bass is the also crucial thing. So everything what I want to show today about Chopin, about these structures, rhythmic, harmonic structures of this time, are very connected with figured bass. And also to explain it, it's very helpful to go back to the past times, because Chopin's teacher, Joseph Elsner, he wrote also a small figured bass school, and there are examples how to use it for improvisation, for practicing improvisation. And we also see first pieces by Chopin, like his first sonata in C minor, like La si darem la mano variations, or like what's the Si darem la mano? Two concerti, piano concerti, very famous concerti, E minor and F minor. Everywhere you have this feeling of the structure, the playing or composition art is very connected to Baroque music, to 18th century music. And so I would start with this first, maybe. And what is
go
the
ahead.
difference?
Yeah, go ahead. So how did you want to tie that with Baroque music and classical music?
Yeah, maybe I will give first this example of Chopin. Yeah, so his first piano sonata. Yeah. We have already this beautiful chromatic line. So he goes in the bass line. We can say tetrachord, getting down with the tetrachord, but chromatically, of course. La si dare la mano, begin of the orchestra, it's a very similar way. There's also this passus driusculus, we call it also in 18th century or 17th century figure. So chromatic lamento bass, you can also call it like this.
Yeah.
But let's say on the first piano concerto in E minor, then so the same way, he starts with falling down with tetrachord, chromatic tetrachord. And the piano concerto in F minor, the same thing. Okay, he goes much. So he goes the whole scale. And then tom. So if you want to see this, I would say, way how he started to compose, I'm pretty sure that this influence of the figured bass was very strong there, not because of his teacher, but also there was the way. This was the way of starting some dramatic piece, because both of these pieces or openings are very dramatic.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with you. I just wanted to say that I was reading my Liszt biography. I was very interested in that, and he was saying that there's a certain harmonic language, I think, that's starting to crop up in the 19th century. Maybe you could see it in maybe as early as Weber, and just after there's a certain break in terms of harmonic language, in terms of the way certain. I mean, what you just said, of course, is perfectly explainable as chromatic lamento bass, but using of nines, appoggiaturas in terms of the dissonances, a little bit more free.
Of course.
Can you comment on that? Because it's clear that he has that classical upbringing.
Yeah.
And yet he also wants to be there's a different color to the way he's doing things. Because it's not exactly like you're listening to a Mozart sonata. It does sound different.
Yeah, of course, it sounds different. So the first element would be the chromatic. So this is the first element with which you can also improvise or start to improvise in this style. So you are taking old patterns, but you try to change it chromatically. The second one, and I see this in the development of the whole music, we were focused in the last centuries on the fifth. So there was, for example, if I have some connections, I go between 1 and 5, and then come falling fifth sequence and so on. So the fifth is the crucial interval if we were talking about connections between the chords. Later, and this is typical for me, this is my opinion, in the Romantic time, the third will be the next interval, which is in the centers. For example, going from F major to A flat and so on, or going thirds, different keys, but in the thirds distance. So there is no more this fifth in the center. The connection of 3 is in the center, and we can also see it in a model which I want to show today in so-called Liszt progression or Teufelsmühle or Voglerischer Gang. There is a kind of leaving keys very fast, and maybe this is the basic model which I also show to my students if they want really very fast to have something which sounds very freely, to leave these keys. So let's go to this picture. I think now you can see it very well. So how does it work? If you have a dominant 7 chord, you go then to 4, 6, and very important thing, we see here figured bass numbers. So this is the way how you can very easily explain it. So C major 7, so dominant 7 chord, then E minor, back to dominant 7 chord, and then you are in A major 7, yeah? Dominant 7. I will play that very fast tempo. Now you are in F sharp, you know? So you can leave very fast the key, and this feeling of we've lost our center, or we are losing our center of the tonality.
Yeah.
Of course, this is not Wagner, this is not losing of the whole tonality, but we are losing the feeling of the tonic and dominant. You know?
They were best friends, Liszt and Wagner. I mean, like Liszt and Chopin were also best friends, but Wagner and Liszt, I mean, they were bosom buddies in the sense that they, promoted each other and helped each other. I mean, Liszt definitely helped Wagner huge ways. And I think Wagner said that, like, I think it was a letter to, who is it now? Bulow or someone. He said that, Liszt, it's a famous quote, but definitely Liszt influenced my compositions for sure. So yeah, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing when you're playing it. I'm definitely hearing that.
Yeah, but for me, it's of course the most important thing. What can we do with it today? Because in the improvisation, it's very dangerous to say, "Oh, I will practice now improvisation in the style of Wagner," or "I will practice improvisation in the style of Chopin." Because if you take, or Bach, this is the same. If you take early Bach or early Chopin and compare it with late Bach and late Chopin, there's words between of them. Yeah, so it's very, I would say, I wouldn't recommend to say like this. But if you are talking about generally romantic style, we have some visions of it, some examples of sounds, you know. And this is, for example, beautiful stuff to improvise. I will maybe play some short improvisation, some adagio, and use this structure. Okay.
Okay.
What is possible and how does it feel for you? Yeah. So now starts. Yeah, so I started in E minor, and then go to D major. It was, of course...
that was great. That was so good.
Thank you. But I wanted to show you, so starting, making some opening a la nocturne, keep E minor, and then through this, I make the dominant 7 chord, so, and then... I can stop in every moment. So my goal could be this F major chord, and then and this is the end of the modulation. I am new key, or I can do and I go further and further. So continue this, like, to feel lost in the tonality. This is also a very nice comparison. You know, to feel lost.
Now, are you as an improviser always in your head, I know what key I'm in all the time?
No. And this is the most beautiful thing. As improviser, for me, because maybe other improvisers feel it different way, but for me, it's improvising like you go to a big castle, you know, and you have 30 rooms or 40 rooms there. You have many levels there. And you are going to one room, it's beautiful here. Maybe, I'll go on the opposite side to another room. So this kind of feeling, you are moving between different rooms, and you don't know where you are. First, if you are in there, then you recognize, I reached this room. I recognize.
So I'm not saying like you don't know where you're going. Like, I mean, I can understand, like, you leave that free, so it's free. Okay, I don't know where I'm going. That I can. But what about in that moment? Like, because for note choice, right? When you're
Yeah.
ornamenting, you're playing out, you're
Yeah.
extending the
Yeah.
chord. You know what the chord is, like you said, the figured bass. But in that moment,
Yeah.
I'm
In
not
that
saying
moment,
I'm not saying like, oh, where you're going. Where you're going could be a mystery, of course.
okay.
But the moment where you're in a particular chord, do you always know where you are and what key?
Of course. So at the
Okay.
moment, for example, I played, and then for me, every time in this example, this 6/4 chord, this is the end of the. So I can't stay here on the, for example, dominant 7th chord. I need to have this 6/4 chord because this is for me the dominant suspension. And for me, this is also the moment, okay, I reach now the D major, perfect. So I will stay here 1-2 minutes. And then I'm playing in this key sometimes. But as you see, it's very difficult to, for example, I play this and okay, I can stop here on this 7th chord. But this is the, how to say, it doesn't function so well like this 6/4 chords. For example, C minor or C sharp, sorry, C sharp minor or C sharp major. Both are possible.
Yeah.
And I can decide in the last moment, okay, do I want to have a minor feeling or major feeling? But this is for me the last station. And from this time, I know where I am now and I know what I want to visit in this room, visit in this C sharp room, I would say.
Okay, so how, like, your knowledge of the 24 keys, the major and the minor, is that an absolute prerequisite to be very good in all your keys? And like, just like, and what does that mean, good? Like do you like playing the scales, playing them in thirds, sixes, playing through, like, what's your idea of, well, for a student that you're teaching, you said, okay, you're good at your, I know you're good in your keys. What does that mean?
Does that mean that you feel very comfortable, that you don't need to think in this key? You know, that your fingers are able to go automatically where you want. Of course, the main test for it is the rule of the octave, also in the romantic music. So if I reach this C sharp, so it's I need to check, okay, I feel good, very good. And I can play some other sequences there. This is the test. So I would recommend to practice it, of course. And
Practice what? Okay, so like, what kind of exercises do you make your students
so the first,
do for keys? I mean,
so
it
the
can just
first,
be as easy as scales. I mean, seriously, you can say anything from beginner to advanced.
okay. For example, let's say you are my student. I will say,
Oh,
okay, Nikhil, you
yes,
want to, you
I'm
are,
your student. Yeah, go.
you don't feel. I would first ask, do you know C sharp major chord? If you say yes, then okay, can you play cadence in C sharp? So this would be the first thing. If you can play, perfect. But let's make music with this chord. So let's figurate this chord. In romantic style will be arpeggio in the left hand. So. Oh. Or then I would say, okay, if it works, because we are talking about romantic style, not Baroque style. In Baroque style, we will like different figuration, okay? But in this style, we will stay in arpeggios. And next question, okay, let's go steps in the scale. It's like. And back. Okay, this is something different. This is Chopin, but I leave now the key.
No, it's good.
Yeah. So this will be first. Of course, if you are a pianist, no? Because if you have no much experience with Chopin music or with romantic music, it's very difficult to play this figuration. You know.
Okay, so a cadence then. That you start off with cadences. I mean,
Cadence, yeah.
I mean, obviously, can you? What about like boring stuff? I mean, don't be afraid to say boring stuff. I mean, like scales, arpeggios. I mean, like really
Yeah, but
give.
yeah,
What is the syllabus basically?
I don't fear to say boring stuff, but I wouldn't call it boring stuff because we were taught this is boring stuff, like Czerny etude. You know, if I play it like this is boring, and this is no music. But if I play, you can make already music from lines, you know, or and so on. But the first thing would be if you want to really feel good in C sharp major or D flat, as you wish.
Any key? No.
Yeah, there was also one question about the enharmonic. You told me. Yeah, this is in the improvisation. It plays for me. It has it doesn't make any sense because I'm thinking only in the what I need to take in my hand. So I see here mostly C sharp, sometimes D flat. It depends on it where I'm going from or to. But the first would be idea play maybe some songs in C sharp major, just to after playing maybe 2 weeks, you see there is no difference, or there's a small difference between C major and C sharp major. For example, or some any song, you know.
Great. Well, do you for your beginning students, what kind of I mean, I'm just really interested in like how comprehensive it is in like what kind of things you assign to students. So like, I mean, you know, one thing people have said about partimento is that they get all excited about it, and then but a lot of people maybe they have never really played the piano ever. You know, they like the idea of partimento,
Yeah.
but then it's like, oh wow, I actually have to do a lot of. I need to have some experience first on the keyboard. I can't just jump in and realize a partimento, you know, so easily. It's there's actually a lot of stuff I need to do first. So maybe very briefly, could you just say the sort of things you that you do with beginning students first and intermediate students before that?
So my goal is really, I think partimento is a perfect tool really to expand your knowledge about how to build a form, how to build a nice counterpoint, because there is also in the levels. I was talking about it with some people, and they also have this meaning, or they say that this is very good for some persons which are already familiar with music many years.
Yeah.
And I start with my students really with speaking. So not read, not write,
Yeah.
but speak. So you are on the piano, play, and it's independent from the style. Like it can be later Baroque or romantic style. But first, for example, this cadence. You know, many people are playing cadence very very boring, you know? Like or some people playing like or some like this, and this of course this is a cadence, but there is no music. So how can we start to make music from something? And the first thing is to imagine some effects, some ways. For example, and this is why the literature repertoire is so important. I ask this person, what did you play already on your piano? If some person say, I play only this piece. Okay, so let's play the cadence with the motive. this, or play with
Yeah.
both hands, like T, da, 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 and from F, or maybe something like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in 3/4. So just maybe making some variations. This is my Bergamasca, because you know Bergamasca model is the cadence model actually, like so you have a melody, there is a song, a German song, Kraut und Rüben, which Bach used in the last variation of Goldberg variation as Quodliebe. So beautiful line, beautiful melody. But what we play as to this dance is chords like tonic, dominant, subdominant, dominant, tonic, and one more time the same. So just imagine different variations, and we start to play together. In Leipzig, where I'm teaching, we have 2 pianos, and it's a beautiful situation. To warm up, I say to students, okay, let's improvise just 4 hands or 2 pianos. No? And I am playing the accompaniment, and person is playing some figuration in the right hand. For example, I will do it now in C major. I'm playing these chords, and the student can play. And so on. And then we change. I play solo, and he's playing or she's playing. Or in romantic style, for example. It's difficult to say what is romantic. I mean romantic, these arpeggios, you know.
But I get it, yeah.
This kind of working with someone who wants to start, who is very scared because there is every time the moment where, oh my God, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. So many, fears are inside of the playing. This is for me most important part at the beginning of starting improvising. As you speak, don't be afraid. Speak very slowly, only one sentence, and try to have fun with it. This is the point.
I loved your Liszt example. Do you have more examples you wanted to show?
Yeah, I can show you something, because we are talking a little bit about this, Teufelsmühle or Liszt progression, as we can call it. But I have 2 examples. One is from the revolutionary etude.
Oh, right.
The word is difficult for me to say. Yeah, there was, of course, I made some video on YouTube about it, and I would like to say about some chord which is very important here. For example, all of us, we know the theme. And then comes suddenly F dominant, F major chord. Dominant F chord. And this is the point where he modulates. So he reaches B flat major. So this is the point where he goes to B flat and ta, 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 ta. Also rule of the octave, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 1. So he modulates here, for example, to B flat major. And after it, he goes beautiful, and it's also typical for romantic time, not tonal but real sequence. So in this bar, where is forte, this is G sharp minor, and now this is beautiful. This is also, if we hear something like this, we think, this is Chopin. What happens here? This is like fourth up, fourth down, third up, or in other case, we can say it on the minor chords. This was the subdominant, minor tonic, minor subdominant, minor tonic. Of course, it's already complicated to use for improvisation, but to play it in A minor, it's much easier. So, for example, if someone already know the cadence in A minor, you can just make the music more beautiful. So put together some models and practice already this model too. I wanted to show this kind of sequence because it's also, I would say, very original and very typical for this time. Like,
your YouTube channel, and I want to plug it. Really quality YouTube channel. I mean, I think it really deserves more attention. It's really fantastic. It's full of these analyses. I have a question about analysis now. I actually came from a jazz background. I used chord symbols, and sometimes it is quite useful in classical music. Sometimes the chord symbols can be useful when you analyze things in a general way, I think, in a general way. But I also found there's some limitations with chord symbols. Like you don't quite get exactly, like maybe the figure-based language is a little bit more precise. But you use both, I think, right, in your teaching, and I think you. So what? Tell me about your application of chord symbols and your application of figure-based. How do you see the uses, the limitations? Just tell me what your perspective is. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, so I prefer figure-based if there is a lot of movement in the bass line. For example, if we have some rule of the octave and so on, some chromatic lines also, and a lot of chords with third in the bass, for example. That's also 6/3 chords. It is for me easier or faster to think, okay, this is 6 chord or 6/3 chords. But also I used absolute name of the chords like A minor, C major, and so on to, for example, in harmonization of the chorals, because this is also a very important part of learning improvisation, to play a lot of chorals, to harmonize it by yourself. And I also talk to every student, and I was also taught like this, to write just above, okay, this is second lesson, right above your line, melody line, chord. So no write a bass line first, but just chord. What kind of harmony do you like for it? Or would you like to have here? Yeah, and this makes also things a little bit easier, I think, at the beginning. Mostly chorals are only in one key, so there are not many modulations, maybe modulating to dominant key, but there is not like in romantic music, a lot of different chords, like here. But I would say to see one thing from different perspectives, from different angles. Because if you are thinking in thorough bass or figure bass, this is very good. It helps a lot. Yeah. But sometimes I'm also, of course, thinking in just only chords. Because if I want to switch very fast to another key, okay, I know F sharp, for example, F sharp major, F sharp, then B major, and then C sharp major. So this is my cadence, you know, and or parallel chords like F sharp. What is the parallel to this F sharp? This is D sharp, D minor sharp, you know. So F sharp major, D sharp minor.
This is good. Wait, can you do more of this? More of the thought processes. So like this thinking on the fly. This is very useful, right? So like, what sort of keep going with that? I like that a lot.
Yeah, this is the way how I try to imagine, because it's all about imagination. How I stimulate my imagination to. This is the same if we want to learn new words in the foreign language. You try to see this word. So okay. How does it write? How does it sound? How it's built? So the same with chords. Sometimes the chord is very difficult to. I will give you one example, also beautiful example, typical for romantic music. I will put it the way that we know to say. For example, this chord, C major chord, dominant chord. Yeah? And if I go, if the fifth will be diminished, yeah. For some of people, they can imagine here, this is a C, E, and then F sharp and B flat, or F sharp and then A sharp. For some of people, this is the this chord, the source chord was the F sharp dominant 7.
Yeah.
For some of them, is this chord. Yeah. So what can I imagine here if I want to learn this chord? Sometimes it's necessary to think about, okay, C, E, B flat. So this is my first idea. I see here dominant 7 chord on the C, but for some of them, they can see this, no? you know what I'm thinking? You know my way of thinking, or do you understand this? How do you feel it?
So is that to do with the spelling of the chord? Because I noticed you have different note in the bass, right?
Yeah, but anyway, everything what happens after it.
And does that have to do with the inversion of the chord? Like they see it in a different position?
Yeah, of course I can play it.
Yeah.
But first I have only one inversion. But if I play it, I have no score, I'm improvising. So do I imagine here this chord? Or do I imagine here this chord with diminished 5? Because this is diminished 5 and this is diminished 5. So where is the 5 here? No? And this is what I mean with imagination, because it's different, different view of the chord. This C and this F sharp. This is total different way of thinking. And in improvisation, very important thing, it's to make a shortcuts in the thinking, not to analyze, oh, this is possible, so I can call it like C major 7, dominant 7 chord with diminished 5, or I can call it F sharp dominant 7 chord with diminished 5. It takes too long. The only things which counts is how fast can I hear it and go to, for example, this way or to this way. So there are different ways, of course, to move. But through analyzing one chord from different points of views, it also develop your fantasy, or I would say imagination about chords, you know.
Yeah. Now, can you speak a little bit? We didn't talk about this before, but modulation. So, if you look at the Furno, Furno has a couple of ways to modulate. But I mean, the 19th century, you have people publishing books on modulation. Like there's all sorts of things you can go into. So how should someone in the area of improvisation, how should they learn ways of modulation?
Also by, of course, some of students want to first understand, and I understand it that because I wanted also to understand what I'm playing. But as I said, in improvisation, the most important thing is to react fast and to hear. There's a better way to hear. So, for example, I would start with the huge amount of options if we have diminished chord, diminished 7 chord, you know. Yeah. Every of these 4 notes can be your leading note, yeah? So I can go to D major, if the C sharp goes to D, this is leading note to D. Now, my E is my leading note to F, so F major, yeah? This is my leading note to A flat, and B flat is my leading note, or I would call it A sharp to B major. So this is the chromatic improvisation. So if you have this modulation through this diminished chord, you can reach a lot of keys. But also the problem is a lot of people say, I want to reach this key, and they are very I would say disappointed if they reach another key. But in the improvisation, it happens all time. You are not thinking, there's no plan, I will go there, I will go there, I will go there. Of course, you can, in Baroque music, this is a little bit different, but you can have this, I would say, a sketch of the improvisation. But the most beautiful part of it, you don't know which point you reach next. And through this chords, for example, you can reach many of them, yeah? And in the flow, it depends, of course, what kind of melody I have. For example, if I play in romantic style, this is C sharp, then dominant 7 chord, and my goal is here. But or I can go because the B flat leads me here. So there are many ways, but for the beginning, as I said, I would just start with only one connection and try to develop some melody, maybe sing some melody here. Oh, you will surprise. Oh, this was nice, 4, 2, 3. But every time is something different. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So it is quite experimenting. You can't learn improvisation like some knowledge. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. There is a grammar of the language, of course. But if you are speaking the language, you forget the grammar. You just use this grammar to go where you want, to speak about the topic what you want.
So did you have, was there one more example that you mentioned you had?
There was one example more, if you want, because you were talking about Liszt, you know.
Oh yeah. I'm on a big Liszt kick.
You talk a bit about
this song is the best song ever.
Yeah. And it could be also beautiful inspiration for improvisation, because at the beginning you start only with 1/5 movement, yeah. So this is in A flat major. I can play it very well, but so the first idea would play dominant, tonic, dominant, tonic. It's very similar like Berceuse by Chopin. It's also between 1 and 5. So this is the similar way. But if it's too difficult to go, just play it. And so on, you know. Just trying be free to improvise about these two chords. I can play the line. So different options. But what I wanted to show you is this moment, because there's so there's a minor subdominant, so fourth step, or we can say D flat minor, yeah. So this chord, yeah. I will play in this octave here because you can see my hands. And then he goes to A. We can see here. So this chord, C sharp minor. This is in the figured bass 6/4, but going to 6, and then the diminished chord, and the goal, the end point is on the D major. So pretty difficult key changes, yeah, modulation, but what we can learn from it and what we can use it for, like starting on playing this chord, then this, then this, and then this. It's already so beautiful. Yeah. 3 voices. And so moving from A flat to B natural, B major, yeah. Pretty nice connection, also a median connection, like small 3. And here on the other side, we have also in this we are in B major. So he reached here B major 7, then he gives this 7 here, and this is a beautiful thing. I don't know if you can see it better. I'm playing this part, you know, and this is what we were talking about. Oh, sorry, I can see it now. I'm lost a little bit, but it was dominant 7 chord on the F, and then here going back to B flat major. So just only from this chromatism from B to B flat, also a very nice way of modulating, you know, which is also possible in a lot of pieces, and Chopin uses it is very clear. Going one step down. So, as I said, there are many possibilities to use examples from literature. This one is pretty complex, and it's very difficult to see these chords.
No, you grasped the essence, Szymon. I like that.
To go.
You have a fine musical brain, which I really admire and I really appreciate. And that sort of analysis, I mean, there's tons of that on your YouTube channel. It's really fantastic stuff. So I was trying to communicate with your former teacher, Wolfgang Zerer, right?
Very good.
But unfortunately, there's a bit of a communication issue here. So he said maybe there could be a translator. I don't want to get a translator. Actually, I want to actually learn German. One like really great moment in our last interview was what he said when you told me that he didn't really use function theory. He said he looked more at the bass and that sort of thing. But like what would he have thought of, like, fundamental bass, which is it's not functions theory. That's a little bit more applicable in the 19th century. You have a chord, but you can mix it up and down. Jazz musicians use fundamental bass quite a lot. How would you studied with him, like thinking in terms of fundamental bass and chord symbols and figured bass, mixing it all together?
I think I was talking about it in our last interview. I can also repeat it because it's very clear. I come to him to study, and I was already studying piano, and I was taught everything in the function theory. And I was playing and saying, here's the double dominant, here is this parallel of this tonic parallel, and so on. And I started to ask him about, what do you play here? Do you play double dominant and something like this? Which kind of function? And he said one very important sentence for me, which helped a lot to understand how this works. Forget it, everything. So just to have really so simple input to your brain that you can really react very fast. If I'm trying to imagine, I'm now here, this is now a function of this, and so on. And I think the figured bass is the perfect tool for it, because this is the tool from the time. I'm talking, of course, about 18th century improvisation. So figured bass, and also name of the chords. So like just play here this chord, and go here this counterpoint or this line, chromatic or not chromatic on diatonic, or rule of the octave, of course. So this was the main goal, to have patterns of bass lines, and stop to think too complicated. Yeah.
Now wait a second. So like, and I just want to play devil's advocate. Sometimes you can get very, like, particularly when you're modulating and into more remote keys with the figured bass. Even the figured bass looks scary, right? I mean, I know you're talking about improvisation and there's no score, but like even in terms of analysis, late 19th century, maybe even earliest 20th century, people are still sort of using figured bass, but like if you look at the figures, all the sharps, the flats, and it looks scary, right? It looks like, whoa, how am I supposed to read these figures? What key am I in? It's like so even like sometimes figured bass can be somewhat scary, right? So I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm a big everyone knows I'm a big figured bass fan, but
Yeah,
like, but maybe even figured bass can be thinking a bit
of
complicated. What do you
course.
think?
Of course, I'm laughing a little bit because you didn't see my notes from my theory lessons, piano theory. I was studying piano, and with functions. They're really like my grandma asked me, Shimon, this is like chemistry. What you write here? Uh, you are talking about figure bass and a lot of sharps and flats, but this kind of analyzing with functions, that was really terrible and horrible. Of course, I can understand now what I
Mm,
did. But to play from it or to try to realize what happens, it takes a lot of time.
mm.
So I would say, let's make some example or take some example. For example, I would say you have just chords like you're going up chromatically
Yeah.
diminished chords, yeah? Or I want to improvise about chromatic scale, yeah? In this process, there was only two thoughts or one thought. Every second chord should be diminished. So I want to play what I want. Diminished, I want to play what I want. I can play what I want.
It can be major or minor, right? The second chord.
Yeah, major, minor, or of course I was thinking about 4/6 or 6/3. Yeah, so 6, 4/6. Maybe second. Now it's 4/6. 2/4/6, yeah? So of course I can think in this form of the chord, and I'm on the F sharp and thinking, okay, what is better, to play here 6, to play here 4/6, or to play here 2/4, And these are moments where I decide very fast, but only one thought is every second should be diminished. And this kind of thinking, so there is no function, there is also no thorough bass or no everywhere, because I'm not thinking like it's diminished 7. No, just diminished chord, and then releasing, tension, releasing, and then tension, releasing, and something like this. So I think the process of thinking is much faster if you just have only one thought and not analyzing where I am now, what I'm doing now. There is no time for it.
I can imagine if that was in the repertoire and I saw that, or a student saw that and be like, "Oh my goodness," or what? It would be a nightmare. It just be what they would try to, and then you just came up with that in like seconds, right? I mean, really, it was seconds, and then basically, the you made it so simple, and the thinking was very simplified.
Yeah.
But I can imagine a student in a college or university classroom sitting there with that score and thinking, "Oh, it's like I think it's this and that," and it's a lot of speculation, right? I mean, it's like a lot of it's like playing a guessing game. Where is he going? What's he going? And then we do that, right, with our repertoire. We look at that sometimes, and
of course, but on the other hand, what is my goal? Do I need to analyze some piece to understand? Okay, he made this and this, but do I want to? Okay, this is tension releasing. So there's beautiful place where I want to use for my composition, my improvisation. So the goal is only, okay, it's diminished, and what I want, maybe 6. Okay, let's try only first diminish 6, diminish 6, diminish 6. It will be perfect, perfect training to start. And diminish 4/6, diminish 4/6, and diminish 2/4/6, and so on. And to hear how does it sound for me, how can I find beautiful melody for it, because it's also very important, how do I get the voicing.
Well, you are a fantastic teacher, and I really hope that your channel explodes and you just do very well, because I'm a fan. So
Thank
the
you.
great, what can I say? The great Szymon Jakubowski. I'm really trying to introduce the show differently and end the show differently. Because I'm listening like this is like a broken record the way I'm talking. So keep doing what you're doing. It's great. And we have a modern episode to discuss. Okay, we definitely should go more into deep dive with that. And what can I say? Subscribe to this man's channel. He's fantastic, and we need more of that. All right. Well,
Thank you, Nick.
Shimon, thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.